Good morning. Welcome to this week's IGTV. What to do when your teenager blames you for everything. I'm not sure if there's anything more heartbreaking as a parent when your teenager is lashing out at you because all of their pain is your fault. And it must be something that you've done and you should have known better or been a different or better parent because you've ruined their life. Ouch. Big, giant ouch on that one. If this sounds familiar to you or you know someone who's going through this is the right place, and I hope you share this with other parents who might be struggling. My name is Allie Payne. I'm a certified life coach, certified relationship systems coach, and I've been helping parents and teens to reconnect, end the painful disconnection, emotional blow-ups, stressful silences, to create relationships that are built on trust and respect with improved communication and quite a bit less struggle, challenge. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks for being here. We're talking about what to do when your teenager blames you for everything and how painful that is. And I'm going to cover 6 main topics, 6 key points today that will, I'm hoping, give you a slightly different perspective on what's going on so that you can be with your teenager in a different way that feels less painful and work through this rather than feeling taken down by it, literally taken down by it. First, I want to remind you that my 5-day challenge, 5 days to a better relationship with your teen, is coming up on September 20th. These are the kind of things that we're talking about. I take 5 different nights. I go live 5 nights talking about the 5 painful parenting pitfalls. And I give you science, context, real, proven, practical tips and strategies, handouts, downloads, tons of extra resources, all over 5 days in a private group with the most incredible community of caring and courageous parents like yourself, a very safe and supportive community where there is zero tolerance for criticism, judgment, or condemnation. Instead, we hear each other and we support and encourage each other when things don't go well and when they do. So if that interests you in the 5-day challenge, it's like a $1,200 value. It's $15. You guys, it's $15 for 5 days. You can hit the link in my bio and you can register. It's right there at the top, or you can go to my website, alliepayne.com, and there's a banner right at the top, 5-day challenge. It starts September 20th. All the content is there for at least a month, so it doesn't matter if you can't join live. Just do it at your own pace. You do not want to miss this. It only runs every 2 to 3 months. So make sure that you get in on the 5-day challenge. Okay. It is not different if it's your step teenager. Nope. This is all going to apply. This is whether it's your teenager, your tween, your young adult, because I get this a lot where this, your tween or teen is different if they're blaming you. And also, by the way, the 5-day challenge is appropriate for tweens, teens, and young adults. It works all in there. But today's topic, as far as your teenager blames you for everything, I get a lot of that in later teens. For some reason, I get a lot of that in later teens. So, all right, let's jump in, shall we? Okay. The first thing that I wanted to talk to you about today in why your teenager blames you for everything is the first thing I want to say is this. There's probably nothing more painful. Probably few things are more painful than this. It is literally like taking a knife and stabbing it in your heart, twisting it around 2 to 3 times, then ripping it out, then meat tenderizing it, and then driving over it a few times. That's kind of how it feels. And heartbreaking barely begins to describe it. So if this is you, I just want to say that I see you. I am not here to make light of the pain that you might be experiencing in this. In fact, I'm here to tell you it's real. It is real. And that you are welcome here. You're welcome in any of my parenting communities. So what I hope today is to give you the tools to lessen some of that heartbreak. having sacrificed and loved this creature for so long, who's now turning and blaming you for everything in their life. So, all right, heuristics. What is that, you ask? Heuristics. So heuristics is a study of how our brains perceive every situation, our environment, etc. Okay? And how impacted we are by everything from our blood sugar levels to our emotions that day, our thoughts and beliefs overarching, our thoughts and beliefs in that moment are wildly different from each other. So it is totally possible that your teenager and you can have experienced the exact same slice of time, momentum time, situation, and you both perceive and experience that same moment in time wildly differently. Totally differently. Okay? So this is it's a study that goes on in courts of law, and it's applied to a lot of other areas of life. Heuristics in how you could have 8 different witnesses called to the stand, and each of them, these are witnesses. So let's just say for a second, okay, they have no, there's no interest for them to lie. Like they're not going to win. They're not winning because they're just a witness. Okay, all 8 of those people can have been present at exactly the same moment in exactly the same situation, and you will get 8 different stories about what happened. How is that possible? How is it possible that one of them is not lying then? Welcome to heuristics. So I want to give you that piece of perspective first, is that you can have a totally different perspective and experience on what your parenting was than your teenager can on the receiving end, even though you were present for all of it and you probably remember it all. Your teenager and you may have a different experience, okay? So that's point number 1. Number 2, under perspectives, okay? I want to talk about gaslighting, because I think gaslighting is a very sexy term, very sexy, common term that is overused. I'm going to just say it. It's overused right now. When 2 people have very different perspectives on the same situation, they are not necessarily gaslighting each other, okay? Gaslighting is from a much more intentional use of controlling or emotionally abusing another person to the degree they begin to question their thoughts, beliefs, and in fact their own reality or identity. Okay, that's gaslighting. What I'm talking about right now, today, is perspective. It is possible and okay to have 2 different perspectives about the same situation. Okay? So, okay, I'm going to move on. Gaslighting, right. You don't necessarily have to be a narcissist to be using gaslighting. It can be an intentional thing. I don't believe this is gaslighting, okay? I don't believe that you are attempting to emotionally abuse or control your teenager, and I don't believe your teenager is trying to do the same with you, all right? I'm just going to say that for now. Now, let's talk about the teen brain for a moment. So this is point number 3. Let's talk about the teen brain. The teenage brain, and I've talked about this a lot in my videos prior, so if you've already heard it, I'm sorry, but I am going to say it again because it's so critical to this point. The teenage brain, their emotions, their amygdala, okay, is fully formed, okay, and often quite raw and unprotected because their upper brain, their intellectual brain, okay, during adolescence is going through its second and final growth phase of our lifetime. You have a growth phase that brain actually grows in when they're a toddler and when they're a teenager. It is so growing, like physically, it is growing. It's a process called myelination, and it is where it's taking simple scaffolding, a simple brain computing system, to becoming far more complex. Yes, this live will be on my profile for the end of time. I promise you, it will be here for everyone to watch. It will also be on my YouTube channel. So it's becoming a far more complex system, okay? That's called myelination, where it's densifying. So stick with me for a second. Your teenage brain has their amygdala, their emotional brain is fully formed, but it is going from a simple emotions like happy, sad, mad, glad, okay, to far more complex, in-depth, like at a cellular level feelings, way more complex feelings, okay? So it's got all these complex feelings that it's feeling at a far deeper level, but the hardware to process all of those feelings is not necessarily present. Like it is present, but it's just starting. And then not only are they growing all new hardware just to make it super fun, they're also developing new software at the same time. Woo! Super fun. So this is what's going on in your teenage brain. So this is the Daniel Siegel hand model of the brain, the cranium, the brain stem. This is the amygdala, the emotional brain, that is generally an adult brain, nice and safely protected inside there. See that? Nice and safe, like a turtle in a shell. The teenage brain, this part is kind of like this. So do you see how the amygdala, their emotional brain, is left somewhat unprotected and kind of raw and angsty? Because it's like a turtle with a half-formed shell. It's not safe yet. The reason I'm telling you this is because the teenage brain, okay, is now the human brain is wired for negativity. That's like our primal brain is we're wired for negativity, okay? But the teenage brain is often emotionally hijacked because of this part not being fully developed, like growing physiologically, physically, and then physiologically, it's also developing all of its new impulse control, emotional regulation, decision-making, critical analysis. All of those things are not fully formed, okay? So this is partly why these deep, fundamental emotions they're having, which are bent to the negative, okay? Like I'm having a terrible life and it's all your fault, is coming at you. It's coming at you partly, not wholly, but partly as a function of where their brain is at. Whole bunch of super complex negative emotions, pain, disappointment, isolation, abandonment. Like it's not just sad anymore. It's not just mad. It's like way more complex than that. I use the feeling wheel, Dr. Gloria Wilcox, the feeling wheel. You can download it. It's a free PDF if you Google it, or you can message me and I will send you a copy. The Feeling Wheel by Dr. Gloria Wilcox. So your teen's brain is bent for the negative, okay? So that's another reason this happens. Here's point number 4. Your perspective, similar to your teenager's perspective, can both be right. Now, if you're like me and you were raised in a home where that was a giant hell no, only my parents were right, only my parents had the right to be right, which inherently assumed, and they made very clear, that meant I had to be wrong. Because if someone is right, someone else has to be wrong, right? If that is the place you were raised, I love you, I see you, I get it. What I'm telling you right now is that need to always have one person be right and then therefore someone has to be wrong will be the downfall of most of your relationships if it's not already getting in the way of the connection you have with your teenager. Okay? Your perspective is your emotional perception of of a situation. And that perception is based on, again, emotions, beliefs, how you were feeling that day, what your thoughts were that day, larger scale beliefs and values, etc. That is your perception of any situation, of being here right now. You're like, dude, like, what happened to your hair? Or what, like, whatever you're thinking about me. I don't care. But that's your perception. Your perception is yours, and therefore it's right. And I honor it. I'm not going to argue it with you. And I have my own perception of being here today. That I prepared for this. That I am super grounded in the fact I want to serve. That I understand how painful this can be. So you can be having a very different experience. You can be like, Allie, you're talking out your ass. I honor and hear your perspective. And you get to be right about it because it's yours. So, perspectives can be different and you can both be right. You can be right about having sacrificed, loved, and given every little thing you had in you to be the best parent that you could be. I believe you. And your teenager can be right in this moment, okay, remember brain development, in this moment that they had an experience that wasn't what they wanted. And they're angry and hurt. Okay? So just stick with me for a second. All right, so you can both be right. Now, when your teenager is coming at you with some very, very sharp and hurtful comments, yeah, pardon me if I can't find my zen, right? Like, pardon me if I can't find my zen. What now? What gives you the right to talk to me that way? You have no idea what I went through to give you the life that you have. You selfish, ungrateful, okay, and so it goes, right? Maybe that's not what you said, but you might have thought that. And you have every right to that because this is extremely painful. So what happens when your teenager is coming at you with some of this anger and pain and they're blaming and projecting it on you is you, as most humans would, get triggered. Your brain goes into, because it's so painful to hear, your brain goes into fight or flight and you get triggered. And so you get defensive or angry and your brain tells you that you have to be right. Because our primitive brain, if you were wrong, you got eaten. Like you got eaten by the tiger. Because if you were like standing beside like a big bush thing and you were like, oh, I think that moved. There might be a tiger in there. I should run away. You lived. But if you were like, oh, that bush moved. Oh, no, it's just a tiny bird. I'll be okay. Tiger ate you. So I know that sounds ridiculous, but your primitive brain tells you that being wrong will have you burst into flames. Like you will die if you are wrong. Okay? So in order for you to participate in this conversation in a way that is healing, which is possible, so stick with me, that is healing for your teenager, it means that you noticing your triggers when that's coming up, which would be totally normal and natural, of course, for you to feel defensive and hurt and want to be like, hey, don't talk, and then come back at them. And now you've got an explosion of conflict. To notice that trigger of, okay, I don't agree with what's being said. I don't have to. I can know in my heart that I am right about my perspective about what happened. And I am okay and safe here listening to someone else's perspective, knowing even though it's different than mine. Okay? So understanding your trigger, which is normal, when you get defensive and you want to come back at them, that's okay. Notice that in your body. Like, is it a flutter? Is it a sweat? Does it come out as heat in your face? Literally, notice what the physical reaction is for you when you go to defend, because someone else is on the offense, so you're on the defense, okay? Notice what that trigger is so that you can participate with your teenager and know when sometimes you can talk yourself down out of the trigger in your head. Sometimes you need to check out for a bit and come back. That is wonderful self-care, okay? So that brings me to point number something. I'm sorry, I'm not great at keeping track. Point number 5, listen with respect. So I did a video on this called You Can't Speak to Me That Way. You'll find it on it's an IGTV, it's like 2 minutes long. And here's what I recommend if your teenager's coming at you with this. First of all, this is going to sound crazy, but the fact they're coming to you and talking to you about this is the best thing, because they are struggling with a story. They're struggling with a story they don't want, and they're coming to you because they want to share it. I know that sounds bananas because the way they're doing it is not super awesome, but it's good they're coming to share this with you, because then you can do something about it. And I don't mean change their mind. Because if you're in this to change their mind, you're back in having to be right and wrong. Okay, we're not playing in the land of right and wrong. It's not going to serve anything. Okay, when you listen with respect, it sounds like this. Wow, it sounds like you're really upset right now. Okay, validate. It sounds like you're really upset right now. I love you and I want to hear what you have to say. Connect. Validate, connect, validate. I'm going to say that 16 times over before this is done in the next few minutes, next 20 minutes. Validate, connect. Okay. Sounds like you're really upset right now. I love you. I want to hear what you have to say. It doesn't, no, I find it really hard to listen when I feel attacked. When I hear, use I, not when you, when I hear words or phrases like, and be really specific with your teenager. When I hear words or phrases like, I have a hard time listening. Can we try this again in half an hour? Or is there a different way that you could say that so that I can hear you? You're telling your teenager you love them and your relationship is important to them. So that's connecting. Why do I always get an itchy nose when I go live? I do not understand that. Something's going on with that. And you're saying, I want to hear what you have to say. And you're setting an emotional boundary. It's too hard for me to hear what you're saying when I hear these specific words and phrases. So then you're giving it a break. You're saying, hang on, I love you, all those things. Then you check out, okay? You respectfully check out. Now, your teenager's probably going to feel shut down at that, okay? So just they're probably going to feel like, oh, well, screw you. You don't even want to listen to me. Yeah, well, you can't take it, but like whatever, right? They're going to feel shut down. Keep your word. Keep your word. When you circle back with them, if you said 30 minutes, then circle back. Or if you said, can we do this again? If you can you find a different way to say this, etc. Go back. Keep your word. And then go back to listen, just listen. Use these, not this. Just listen is balm for the spirit. Listening is balm for the spirit. Scientific studies, listening alone lowers cortisol in the brain, lowers blood pressure, lowers body temperature, calms the heart rate. Just listen. It's not about being right. Okay? Then you listen to them until such time as if they throw out other words and phrases that do not feel safe for you, because I acknowledge this could be a trigger for you, doesn't feel safe. You're like, okay, hang on. I love you. I know you're upset. I want to hear what you have to say. Validate and connect. Okay. I have a hard time listening when I hear these words and phrases. Just keep saying it. Be consistent. And then you keep your word. Oh, thank you so much. Keep your word. If they need another break, go back. Give it 30 minutes and go back. Because every time you go back, you show them, I do want to listen to you. I do love you. And I want to hear what you have to say. And it is okay for me to have a boundary around what that sounds like. Self-care. Now, in that half an hour, because this is extremely painful, you might need to go for a walk. You might need to sit in your bathroom and cry. You might need to call a friend. You might need to go get a hug from someone. 100% take care of yourself, whatever that looks like. Take care of yourself in that time so that you can go back in and listen. But you got to remember the other 4 points I brought up, which help you to depersonalize and de-trigger yourself at least. Okay? All right. So here is my last point. I think that's number 6, but I ran out of fingers. I get this question from parents all the time. I am so sick and tired of my teenager blaming me for everything and they won't take responsibility for their own life. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, it happens. It totally happens. Here's a few key things. So first of all, blame is a toxic communication style, okay? It is common when physiologically our body has an experience of very uncomfortable emotions, whatever that is. Uncomfortable emotions, okay? To want that those emotions rise up in our body, like we have a physical reaction to them, and we want to like spit it out on someone else because they feel too difficult to be with personally, okay? What if they are the ones that need the break, not you? Yeah, well, but then don't say you need a break because that's inflammatory. Just say, hey, let's take a break. How about we take a break? I love you. I want to hear what you have to say. My relationship with you is important to me. Let's take a bit of a break and come back. So just don't say you need a break. It's very inflammatory. Okay, so taking responsibility for their life and for their experience. Okay, so let's go back to the brain for a second. Taking responsibility for those feelings, uncomfortable feelings, takes emotional maturity. Some teenagers have it, some don't. Some adults have it, some don't. Okay? Taking responsibility for uncomfortable emotions requires a couple things. First of all, emotional regulation and impulse control, which the teenage brain is still developing. And that's why it's coming out as it bursts on you, okay? The other thing is insecurity. Taking responsibility for uncomfortable feelings means that I need to, number one, know that who I am is not defined by an experience I'm having. So if I'm having a really crappy experience, it doesn't mean I'm a crappy person. Like I can have a really crappy experience. I was late for work. I fender bendered the guy in front of me. It was actually my fault, let's just say, okay? And then my boss yelled at me that day because actually I didn't do something in a way that needed to get done. I can have a super crappy day. Does that mean that I'm a crappy person? But you see, teenagers don't understand this. Some adults don't understand this. You can have uncomfortable emotions and they don't define you. But here's the thing. There is a little peanut-sized thing in your brain somewhere here at the very back in your cranium that is entirely designed to keep you safe. And what that means is making sure your identity, your who you are as a person is never at risk. Ever. Because if it's at risk, you might die. So it is intended to not let you be in that way. Okay? So when your teenager's having really uncomfortable feelings, there's a couple things going on. Okay? They don't want to take responsibility for them because the function of their brain says if they take responsibility for them, they are a crappy person, they are a failure. Not just they failed, they are a failure. It goes into its own shame story. So the reaction is, because that triggers fight or flight, they're just gonna dump it all on you. So when you let them know that their experience on a day-to-day basis, the feelings they have, their experience doesn't define who they are as a person. They can still be a great person and not have a great day, okay? And They can express those emotions in ownership language. So this is what you're modeling for your teenager, right? I had a really rough day today. I was late for work. I rear-ended the guy on the way there. I missed something in a thing from my boss. They yelled at me. And I just need a good cry, or I need a hug. And I'm feeling super frustrated and I'm beating myself up and I just feel awful. Do you model that for your teenager? That it's okay to be less than perfect? Do you model for your teenager, I feel this about this? Do you model that so that they see you manage uncomfortable emotions without having to project them on other people and knowing that you are still secure in who you are? You're still secure in who you are. Okay. So when teenagers don't take responsibility for something, it's because, quite honestly, in the brain, taking responsibility for how they're feeling or what happened feels way too frightening. It triggers flight, not just fight, like flight and fear, so much that their brain says, I can't be responsible for that because I'll die. So I'm going to blame it on somebody else. So this is about helping them build emotional guns, so that they can be with it. But it starts by listening. Okay. So listen. Listen to them. And listening sounds like this. It's called active listening. It sounds like this. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that must really hurt. That would be hard. Yeah. That's it. It's just that. That's active listening. You're not saying anything else. Don't ask questions. Don't judge. Don't fix. Don't correct. Like nothing. Just listen. Because here is what also happens. Is most times when anyone is allowed the space to process uncomfortable emotions that they are currently projecting on someone else, they will get under the story to the actual source. Okay? Anger is a bodyguard of fear and a friend of sadness. Anger, which is what's being projected at you, is covering a fear or a sadness in some way. So if you play the right-wrong game and get into a giant pissing match right at the crux of the beginning, you're never going to get to the source. This is the symptom. Anger is just the symptom. You're never going to get to the source. Okay? So having you skill up to feel safe to participate with your teenager when they are angry, because it is important that you feel safe, because this can be very heartbreaking when they're blaming you for everything. Giving you this context to participate in a way that feels safe is the only way to help your teenager get past the source of the anger to the fear or the sadness. And that brings me to my last point. What they're telling you is this: what happened, or I can't be with what happened, is so far from what I wanted to happen that I can't be with it. So I'm going to spit it out on you. I'm going to blame it all on you. Because what I wanted, now in the age of technology, this is not an awesome thing, because what I wanted is sometimes a wild comparison to like some Disney movie, a Hallmark story that's not even true. It's not even possible. So you got to just be with that. But when your teenager seems to have gotten through some of the anger, it's like lifting the lid off a boiling pot. Like, you got to lift the lid off to let the boil down before you can see what's in the pot, right? Otherwise, all you got is a bunch of boiling goop or water or something. You got to lift the lid, let the boil down so you see what's in the pot. That's what the clarity is. Then you can say to your teenager, what would you like to have happened? What did you want to happen? Because that question will open the door to their fear and their sadness. What did you want to happen? And be quiet when they're telling you. You could say something like, what else? Or tell me more. That's it. Let them have that space. Yes, tell me more. What else? That would be, I want that for you too. Okay, so these are words when you can get past the anger. Tell me, what would you like to have happened? Okay. But you can't go to what would you like to have happened when they're coming at you blaming stuff. So that's why these 6 points. Heuristics, understanding that different perspectives are possible. Perspectives are not right or wrong. They are inherently yours. And your story as a parent is true, but your story isn't truer because it got airtime. See, that's something our brains tell us. That's a big fat lie that our brains tell us. Is someone comes at you in anger, so we play so you go straight to defense, which is normal, right? That's normal in our brains. We get triggered, we go to defense, but now we're in the pissing match of who's right and who's wrong. Perspectives are right. Your story doesn't need airtime to be true. The story you have about the kind of parent you were and what you sacrificed and what you gave and how it was for you is true just because it is yours. It doesn't need airtime to be true. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that this is not so painful for you that you're not going to need to get external support to be with some of this that's coming at you. It can be that painful. You need to get a counselor, a therapist, a coach, somebody to help you process all of this that your teenager or young adult is telling you that you were such a shitey parent, that their life is over and they're blah, blah, blah. Okay? That can be a lot of a load to carry. So please, if it feels too much to carry, please reach out. Please ask for help. You are also not in this to try and solve your teenager. None of this conversation that we've been talking about, that I'm trying to skill you up and empower you to be participating safely in this conversation with your teenager, is about you trying to fix them. That's them. That's their journey. And they might need counseling, therapy, or a coach as well. And that's okay too. That is okay too. Okay? So by listening, our brains do amazing healing on their own when we are just given a safe place where we can express. And it's important that you set boundaries and keep that safe for you as well. So as your teenager is telling you and you're getting to what would you like to have happened, that doesn't mean you need to now go do that. Because catering to your teenager or young adult doesn't work either. If it doesn't feel authentic for you, then that's like another conversation. Plus, some of this is generally things in the past. Your teenager's remembering things in the past, not like right now necessarily. They're things you can't change anyway. But when you say, what would you have liked to have happened? It is possible for you in that moment, because empathy does not require agreement. Go look up every definition, and if you ever find one that says you need to agree, message it to me. Nothing about empathy means you have to agree. You can empathize with someone else, and one of the 4 cornerstones of empathy is, number 1, perspective taking, being secure enough in yourself to be willing to take someone else's perspective, knowing it does not define or mean that your perspective is wrong. That is actually in the definition of the science of empathy. Okay? You can be empathetic to them, so you can still say, I'm sorry that it wasn't the way that you wanted it to be. I can hear how upsetting that is for you. Anywhere in there, did I say, yeah, you're right, I was a shitey parent? Did you just hear me say that? That's not what I said. What I said was, I'm really sorry it wasn't the way that you wanted it to be. I can hear how upsetting that was for you. That is for you. That's it. But that is empathy. Now you may feel called or prompted to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't do it that way. I wish I'd known what I know now. Maybe you do say, I'm sorry. I don't know. Like, don't do it if it's not authentic. Do you know what I mean? Okay. So this is absolutely critical in being with your teenager around them blaming you for all of their wrongs. This is not an easy path. This is not an easy path to walk. And if you're looking for more support on it and you're interested, please, just a minute. What happens when the child went through what's the development like then? I'm not sure what that means on that question, sorry. So what I want to offer you is in my upcoming 5-day challenge, 5 days to a better relationship with your teen. It starts September 20th. You can register in the link in my bio, or you can go to my website, alipayne.com, to register. This is the kind of things that I'm talking about, okay? Is how to connect with your teenager, how to live beyond right and wrong so you can go through that crux of anger to get to fear and sadness, because that's where the solution lies. That's where healing lies, in a way that you feel safe and you feel respected to participate, okay? Remember that perspectives don't need to be right or wrong. Your perspective is yours. Your story is true just because it's yours. And so is your teenagers. And that can be really hard to be with, okay? It doesn't make you a bad parent. It means that you had 2 very different experiences of a particular moment or a phase in their life. That's it, okay? So when you model wholeness, you model taking responsibility for your own feelings, you model how you express when you had a rough day or uncomfortable feelings, you model taking responsibility. I feel crappy. And maybe you can see a part in it. Maybe after the charge has worn off, you can see, yeah, if I wouldn't have tried to make myself that special coffee that morning, I would have left 5 minutes earlier. Then I wouldn't have been late for work and rushed. I probably wouldn't have fender bended the guy. And at least that part of my day would have been resolved. I see how I could have done that differently. Now, you can't always see that, and that's okay. Sometimes, though, you can, once the charge is worn off and you can be with the fear and the sadness, you can see for yourself modeling. I'm talking about you modeling this now, modeling taking responsibility for your feelings. You can see if there's something you could have done differently, if there is. So model that for your teenager, and go again to Dr. Gloria Wilcox, The Feeling Wheel. If you don't already have it, just message me. I can make sure that you get it's a free download. You Google it. It's a PDF. The Feeling Wheel by Dr. Gloria Wilcox. Put it on your fridge, because it is helpful for you and your teenager to build an emotional vocabulary for increased emotional expression, which are keys to emotional responsibility, emotional intelligence, and feeling safe in oneself enough to be with tough emotions and not have to project them on someone else. It's also a function of the brain, okay? It's like our primal brain. Being wrong is death. So it's a natural, it goes against our primal nature to have a developed enough prefrontal cortex, emotional intelligence, to be with and own difficult emotions. I hope this was helpful for you today. If you got anything out of this, just let me know. Like, what's a takeaway that you got? Because this is happening so often right now, and it is extremely painful for parents. And I don't think you have to do this alone. Again, I have a number of resources. I have a free parenting community. I have a private parenting community where I go live every couple weeks. Lots of exclusive modules. I've got my 5-day challenge coming up September 20th. If you hit the link in my bio, you can see all of those things. And yes, listening is balm for the spirit. It's scientific. I know I'm like being all like woo woo, but it is actually science behind listening. So, and being heard. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be here again next Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, as I am every single week. You can watch this again. It will be posted here on my Instagram profile, and it will also be on my YouTube channel. So thank you so much for being here. I wish you a wonderful Thursday. Bye.